I'm going to show you how to make this cute skirt. Now this skirt will fit a baby 3 to 6 months in size, or you could use it for my crochet hound dog pillow as the skirt. And here is my baby doll. She actually fits clothes for a baby that are 3 to 6 months of age. And here you can see the skirt. What's nice about this ribbon that you can put at the top of that V-stitch is you can pull it a little bit tight if you need to secure it onto the baby. Just make sure that when you start with your initial chain that it will fit over the diaper when you put it onto the baby. The opening will fit over the diaper, and then you can cinch it with your bow at the top. And then these are just the shoes that I made for another outfit, but they would go well with this too if you made them with a different color for matching. The other fun project that you could make that I have a separate video tutorial for is the adorable crochet hound dog pillow. And she has the same skirt that you can use on the hound dog. And this is with the beautiful heart ribbon. For this project, you're going to need your J or 6mm crochet hook, and you're also going to need a tapestry needle, as well as a pair of scissors. The yarn that I used was Big Twist Sincerely, and the color is red. Here's some more information on the yarn. And then I just used a white yarn, and this one's a soft baby yarn. You can also put a ribbon at the top of your skirt if you like, so the ribbon is optional. And you could pick pretty large. This is a 5/8 of an inch ribbon that I had left over. But you can pick smaller too if you want for the top of your skirt. So we're going to start with the color, this color right here of the skirt. So the type of yarn that you use is very important, because if you use a baby soft yarn to start, you're going to need a larger chain to start, even though it's the same pattern and same size crochet hook. But if you use the same type of yarn as me, then you can just follow along and make it the same size. If you are using the soft or smaller baby soft yarn to start, then you would just have to increase the size of your chain to the size that you want for fitting, and then the rest of it is going to be the same way, that you make it the same way. To start, we're going to make a slip knot. So you're just going to take your yarn, then fold it over on itself to form a loop. Then you take your crochet hook, just put it right inside of the loop, and then hold the base of the loop with your middle finger and your thumb. Then you're just going to yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and go through that loop for a slip knot. Then you're going to make a chain. I'm just going to show you a few of them, and then you'll just make the rest. The first chain, you're just going to yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and go through the loop for 1 chain, 2, 3. You can see how I'm holding my fingers. 4. Go ahead, finish making a chain of 40, and then come back. After you make your chain of 40, then you're just going to take and hold that last stitch with your middle finger and your thumb, and then you're going to make a chain of 3. 1, 2, 3. That's going to count as your first double crochet for the next row. Now we're going to make 1 double crochet into the 4th chain from the hook, which is the stitch that you're holding. Go ahead and yarn over, go into that 4th chain from the hook, bring up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over and go through 2, and then yarn over and go through 2. Then you're going to make 1 double crochet into every stitch across. I'll just do a couple with you. So into every stitch across, you're going to make a double crochet. And then come back. This is how your work should look after finishing 1 double crochet into every stitch. And I just finished my last double crochet in the last stitch. Now you're going to take the row and fold it over on itself, making sure not to twist the double crochets. Then you're going to take and we're going to join to the top stitch of that first chain 3 that we made. So I'm just going to show you a close-up because this is where some people have some trouble. So I'm going to show you with my tapestry needle. So here, this stitch right here is the first chain. This is your second chain, and this one is the 3rd chain and the top stitch. So you're going to put your crochet hook into that top stitch to join the round. So you go into that top stitch to join the round, and we're going to make a slip stitch. So you just grab the yarn, turn your hook upside down, and bring the yarn through both loops on your hook for a slip stitch, and that will join the round. Now we're going to join the bottom, but first we're going to get ready for the next round. So you're going to make a chain of 3. 1, 2, 3. That's going to count as your first double crochet for the next round. But before we continue with the next round, we're going to join the bottom here. So you're going to take your tapestry needle and you're going to put it onto that loose yarn end at the bottom. Then you're going to take and join that the bottom stitch. You can see how it forms a nice smooth bottom edge. Then just tie a knot. And we'll bury the loose yarn end later, so you can see how it forms a nice circle. And now we're ready for the next round. Now I'm going to show you how to make a shell. So this first chain 3 will count as your first double crochet, and we're going to make another double crochet into the same stitch. So go into the same stitch, make your double crochet, then you're going to chain 1 and make 2 more double crochet into the same stitch. And that's going to be your first shell. Then you're going to skip a stitch. Now for this first stitch, you want to be careful that you don't miss it because it's very close to your first shell. So here you can see is my first stitch, and you can see how close it is. It'd be easy to miss it. So you're going to skip that stitch and work your shell into the next stitch. I'm going to do a couple shells with you. So now I'm going to skip another stitch, and I'm going to work a shell into the next stitch. And you're going to do that all the way around, back to the beginning, and then come back. Now I have 2 stitches left before I reach the beginning. I'm going to go ahead and skip a stitch and make another shell in that second stitch. After you finish that last shell, make a chain of 1. And now you're going to join the round. So I'm going to show you with my tapestry needle, because for beginners this is the toughest part. So you're going to see your first chain 3. This is your first stitch, second stitch, and then the top stitch. So you're going to go into that top stitch to join the round. So you just take your crochet hook, go into that top stitch of that first chain 3 that you made. Then you're going to make a slip stitch. You just yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and bring the yarn through both loops on the hook for a slip stitch. Then we're going to slip stitch into our first chain 1 space. So I'm going to bring this a little closer so you can see. So into the next stitch, you're going to make a slip stitch. So you're going to go into the next stitch. You're going to yarn over. You're going to make a slip stitch again. And then in the next stitch, you're going to make another slip stitch. Then you're going to slip stitch into the first, actually I am in the first chain 1 space. So let me show you. Here is our shell. You have the 2 double crochet, you have your chain 1 and then your 2 double crochet. So I'm in that first chain 1 space, and I'm going to make my next shell. So I'm going to chain 3. I'm just going to back up a little bit with the camera. So now I'm going to make another double crochet into that same chain 1 space. So you can yarn over, go into the chain 1 space, right in between those 2 double crochet pairs. Make your double crochet. Then you're going to chain 1 and make 2 more double crochet in the same spot. So now you have your shell in the chain 1 space. Then you're going to yarn over and then go into the next chain 1 space in the next shell. So go into the next chain 1 space of the next shell, and then you're going to make your next shell. And then you're going to repeat that all the way around, back to the beginning, and then come back. Then, after you finish your last shell, then you're going to join the round. So you go into that top stitch of that first chain 3 that you made. Then you just yarn over and bring the yarn through both loops on your hook for a slip stitch. Then we're going to finish off. So go ahead and yarn over and pull enough yarn through to bury into your work. Then we're going to join our next color. Now when you join your next color, you're going to want to make sure that you join in a chain 1 space. And I would keep it in line where all your loose yarn ends are. Then just take your new color and you're going to bring up a loop, then just chain 1. Then you're going to tie a knot. So just turn your work over and then just tie a knot. Then you're going to make a chain of 3. And then you're going to make your shell. And I'm going behind my loose yarn end on the back as I crochet, just burying it a little bit. You can bury it more later. Then you just finish your shell in the chain 1 space. So 2 double crochet, chain 1, 2 double crochet, form your shell. And the same thing for this round. You're going to make a shell in each of the chain 1 spaces, all the way around, back to the beginning, and then come back. This is how your work should look so far. You have your beautiful shells going around the skirt. Then we're back to the beginning, so we're going to join with the slip stitch to the top stitch of that first chain 3 that you made. Then we're going to finish off, just yarn over and pull enough yarn through to bury into your work. Now we're going to join our second color again. So you're going to take your second color, and then you're just going to join it right where you finished off. So just take your crochet hook, go right into that stitch right where you finished off, and join your new color, and then make a chain of 1. Then go ahead and tie a knot, and then come back. For this round, you're just going to make 1 single crochet into every stitch around. So in the next stitch, you're going to go behind your loose yarn ends. You're going to bring up a loop, 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, turn the hook upside down and go through both for a single crochet. And then in the chain 1 stitch, you can go right into the gap. So right here, right below the chain 1, you can go right in that gap for your next single crochet. So just take your crochet hook, go into that gap, that chain 1 space, make your single crochet, and then you're just going to make 1 single crochet in every stitch around, back to the beginning, and then come back. When you're back to the beginning, then you're going to make a slip stitch into that first stitch that you made. You're just going to yarn over and pull the yarn through both loops on the hook for a slip stitch. Then you're going to finish off, just yarn over and pull enough yarn through to bury into your work. And this is our last color change, so for the rest of the skirt we're just going to use the same color. You're going to want to join your new color right in the single crochet above that chain 1 space on the shell below. So join your new color in that spot. Then you're just going to start your shell, chain 3, and then make another double crochet into that same single crochet space. Then for this round, you're going to skip 2 stitches. So you're going to skip 2 single crochet stitches and then work into the 3rd stitch. So I'm going to skip 2 stitches and work my shell into the 3rd stitch, and then you're going to repeat that pattern all the way around, back to the beginning, and then come back. Now, this is how your work should look with the shells going around the skirt, and we're going to go ahead and join. So just like we've done before, you go into the top stitch of that first chain 3, make your slip stitch, then you're going to slip stitch into the chain 1 space. So in the next stitch, you're just going to make your slip stitch, then you're going to slip stitch into that first chain 1 space, Now you're in the center of the next shell, which is the chain 1 space. Then you're going to make your shell in that space, just like we've done before. And you're going to repeat this pattern all the way around into every chain 1 space. And you're going to do that for 2 more rounds. I'm going to make one more with you, so I'm going to yarn over, go into the next chain 1 space, make my shell, and I'm going to repeat that all the way around. I'm going to join the round and then make one more round and then come back. This is how your work should look so far. Now for the last round for the bottom of the skirt, I'm going to show you how to do the treble crochet shell. So go ahead, slip stitch to the middle of your first shell in the chain 1 space. Then you're going to make a chain of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's going to count as your first treble crochet for this round. Then you're going to yarn over twice. 1, 2, go into that chain 1 space, bring up a loop. Now you have 4 loops on your hook. Yarn over and go through 2. Now you have 3 loops left on the hook. Yarn over and go through 2. 2 loops left on the hook. Yarn over and go through 2. Then you completed a treble crochet. Then you're going to chain 1. Now we're going to make 2 more treble crochets into the same chain 1 space. So yarn over twice, go into the chain 1 space, bring up a loop, make your treble crochet, and we're going to make one more, and then you made your treble crochet shell. And we're going to make a treble crochet shell into each chain 1 space around. I'm going to make one more with you. I'm going to yarn over twice, go into the next chain 1 space, then you're going to bring up a loop, make your treble crochet, make another treble crochet, then you're going to chain 1, make 2 more treble crochets, go ahead, finish making your treble crochet shells all the way around back to the beginning and then come back. When you're finished with your last treble crochet shell, then you're going to take your crochet hook and in the same way that you did for the previous rounds, except for this one, you started with the chain of 4, so you're going to go to the top stitch of that chain of 4, and then you're just going to make your slip stitch. Then you're going to go ahead and finish off. Just yarn over and pull enough yarn through just to bury into your work. And now we're going to take and go to the top of the skirt. You're going to want to take your crochet hook and join in the same stitch where you finished off at the top of the skirt. Go ahead and take your white colored yarn or whatever color you're using for your skirt, the alternate color, and you're just going to hook it and bring it through, and then you're going to chain 1, and then go ahead and tie a knot and then come back. Now you're going to go ahead and chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And for this round you're going to make 1 double crochet into every stitch around, And I'm going to go behind my loose yarn ends. Anytime I can bury my loose yarn ends, I try to. I'm going to bring up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over and go through 2, and then yarn over and go through 2. And then you're just going to make 1 double crochet in every stitch all the way around, and then come back. Now, when you reach that first chain 3 that you made, you're going to go ahead and make your slip stitch just like we've done before. You go into that top stitch of that first chain 3 and you're going to make your slip stitch. Then you're ready for your next round. For the next round, you're going to start with a chain of 3. 1, 2, 3. And again, that counts as your first double crochet for this round. And now I'm going to show you a little bit of fun that you can have with your crochet stitches. For our next stitch that we're going to make into this next stitch, you're going to make a half double crochet. So just yarn over, go into that next stitch, bring up a loop, 3 loops on your hook, yarn over and go through all 3 loops on your hook for a half double crochet. So then in the next stitch you're going to make a double crochet. So you just yarn over, go into the next stitch, bring up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over and go through 2, yarn over and go through 2. And we're going to alternate a half double crochet and a double crochet all the way around. So I'm just going to do a couple with you. I'm going to yarn over, go into the next stitch, bring up a loop, yarn over and go through all 3 for a half double crochet. Then we're going to make a double crochet, half double crochet, and you're just going to repeat that all the way around, back to the beginning, and then come back. Then when you reach the beginning, again you're going to slip stitch into the top stitch of that first chain 3. Then we're ready for our last round. So for this last round we're going to make a V-stitch. And the reason we're making a V-stitch for the last round is because you can put a ribbon through the V-stitch and help tie the skirt closed. So the first thing you're going to do is chain 3, 1, 2, 3. That counts as your first double crochet for the V-stitch. Then you're going to chain 1. Then you're going to make a double crochet in the same stitch. And that is your first V-stitch. Now you're going to skip a stitch, and this first stitch is close to your initial V-stitch, so don't miss this first stitch. That's the one we're going to skip, and we're going to work our V-stitch into the next stitch over. And you're just going to make your double crochet, chain 1, double crochet in the same stitch, and that's how you're making your V-stitch. It makes a V, hence the name V-stitch. You're going to skip the next stitch, make a double crochet into the second stitch, chain 1, double crochet in the same stitch, and you're going to repeat that pattern all the way around, back to the beginning, and then come back. Then I have 2 stitches left before I reach my first V-stitch, and I'm just going to go ahead and skip those 2 stitches and join into the top stitch of that first chain 3. Then I'm going to go ahead and finish off. Just yarn over and pull enough yarn through to bury into your work. Now I'm just going to show you how to bury your loose yarn ends. To bury your loose yarn ends, just take your tapestry needle, and you want to make sure that you bury them on the wrong side of your skirt. Just take one of your loose yarn ends, put it onto the end of your tapestry needle. And when I bury my loose yarn ends, I always make sure to try to bury them into the same color. And you just weave it in and out. And sometimes I go a couple of times just to make sure it's nice and buried. And then once you've finished burying your loose yarn end, then you just take your scissors and cut it. And that's all you do. So go ahead, bury all of your loose yarn ends, and then come back. Then for placing the ribbon, you just find the front of your skirt where you want to tie your bow for the ribbon, and then you just go right in to that top row where you have the V-stitch, and you just go in and out through the V's. And just weave the ribbon, and I usually skip a few V-stitches before going back down just to get more of the ribbon on the outside. And then you just do that all the way around the top of the skirt and then come back. Then you have the bow at the top of your skirt.